All right. Beep bop. Beep bop and blueberry. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and board gamey things. I am back again today with another pumped up Kickstarter. And today's preview video is going to be on Fame and Fable, published by Owen Davey Games, who very kindly sponsored today's video. Now, few things to note as per usual. All of the links, everything that you need to know for this game is going to be in the description below. So if it sounds like something you might be interested in, you can click those, check out the campaign, and do all that fun stuff. Second thing, this is a prototype. It looks fantastic, but just know that these are prototype components and everything that you see is subject to change, and that also includes the rules, of course. So with all of that being said, let's dive in and learn a little bit more about Fame and Fable, a fantasy game. Let's do it! Monsters infest this realm. Gather your forces to kill as many as you can in the time given to you. Fame, glory, and gloating rights await those that succeed, but beware of others who have taken up the quest. Only one among you wins the favor of the land and will be named champion. Fame and Fable is a competitive hand-building game with an evil streak. Prepare to fail in your endeavors, lose precious cards, and annoy your friends in this light-hearted fantasy quest. But what does that mean? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a closer look at how the game works. Now, as per usual with my preview videos, this is a general overview of the game and not an official how to play. I just want to give you a better idea of how the game works to help you decide whether or not it's going to be a good fit for you. So with that being said, let's get started. Now, Fame and Fable is played over a series of turns, and a turn is going to consist of 3 phases: dawn, day, and dusk, which are completed in order. Now, before we get into the phases, I want to talk about a few keywords and the actions that you're going to be able to take, because I think it'll be a little bit more helpful for when we actually talk about the different phases. So let's start with the market, which is seen right here. So the market is this side of the board. It's identified by these little market stall spaces. The market features allies, items, and contracts. So we have contracts in the top row, allies here, and items down at the bottom. Before I say the next thing, this is going to be very important for you to know. You can't have more than 6 cards in your hand, okay? So you're not going to be able to recruit anything from the market if you have 6 cards already. But to recruit cards from the market, you need to spend actions equal to the pips on the cards. Contracts do not cost action. So as you can see, we have little pips at the top of each cards, but of course the contracts do not have pips. So that's the cost. This, the Berserker, 3 pips, 3 actions. The Coward, 2 pips, 2 actions, so on and so forth. Allies look like this. So this, the Coward, this is an ally card, and if you look at the layout, we have the strength of their basic attack, we have their class, we have their cost, we have the fact that they're an ally, which is this little people symbol, their name, and then their ability, which is laid out at the bottom here. They will usually make up the bulk of your hand, and they can either be used for a basic attack, like we mentioned, that's the number right up here, or for their trait, which once again is that ability down at the bottom, but they can't be used for both in the same turn. We also have heroes. Now, heroes are special ally cards that players will receive in their starting hand. They work like regular allies. However, some cards will refer to heroes, and if it does, then it's talking about these. So just so you know, I have set up for a 2-player game. The game can be played from 1 to 4. There's a special set of rules for solo play, but I have set up for a 2-player game. A hero card is going to be outlined in pink. Now this is like an ally card, but it's special. So this was dealt to me at the beginning of the game. There are 4 heroes in the deck, or at least in the prototype. These are the 2 that did not get dealt, so I've just put those off to the side. I also have their little figures up here, which are very, very cute. Allies need to be deployed in front of you in order to use them, and after using them, they will become exhausted, which you can show by turning the card to its side. If a card is exhausted, it can't be used again until it is readied. So if we were this player here, the cards in my hand are not deployed, but if I were to deploy this ally, they would come in like this. When we use them, you exhaust them by just kind of tipping them over to the side to show that they are exhausted, all right? Later on, you will be able to ready those allies by flipping them over, and we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. You can have a max of 6 deployed allies, and you can discard a deployed ally at any time during the day phase on your turn. So if what you have in front of you, you're like, I don't really want you anymore, goodbye, you can discard them in order to put out a new ally. Items, which once again are in this row here, are single-use cards. They count towards your hand limit, but you're never deploying them because if you're playing them out, that means that you are using them and then they're just going to be gone. Contracts are a great way to earn fame. Fame, that's like the victory point track, essentially. And at the end of your turn, you can collect any contracts achieved during your turn, adding the fame value to the fame track. So you'll see we've got 3 face-up contracts here. The fame value is going to be that number up in the top. And if we look at a contract, for example, this one says the contract, let's keep it simple, have 3 weapon allies deployed and ready at the end of your turn. So if you completed that, you have done that. And you're like, what's a weapon ally? You'll notice they all have different symbols. This one right here is a weaponed ally. It's part of their class, basically. The last thing I want to talk about before we actually get into the gameplay is combat, which is your main way to advance on the fame track. Both monsters and legends have a fame score, and to defeat them, your attack must be equal to or higher than that score. We haven't talked about monsters or legends yet, so let's do that now. This is the monster deck. These are face-up monsters. This is the legend deck. So here, actually, let's look at this one. It's very alien-esque. So this is the razor claw. This symbol denotes that it is a monster. The number value up here is going to signify how much fame you are going to score when you defeat them, right? Let's read what it says. First of all, it says, each claw is the length of a long sword. Terrifying. You must attack this card using 1 weapon or more to defeat it. So I would be able to use this card because it has that symbol to defeat this. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be able to because they don't have enough power, basically, but that's what it's saying. So it's going to give you some kind of thing that you're going to need to do. Legends are obviously like stronger versions of the monsters. So you'll see we've got the blob, the worm, and the cockatrice. Okay, so these are legend cards, same kind of deal. It's going to have the amount of fame that you will be able to get, as well as some kind of text that you're going to need to read. Some of the cards are going to have an exclamation mark, and that's actually an instant thing that must happen, but we'll talk about that in a second. But those are the monsters and the legends. You can only attack with your deployed allies, and each monster and legend must be fought separately. Okay, so I wouldn't be able to use this person to fight this one, and then I can use them again to fight this one or whatever. They have to be fought separately. Defeated monsters are discarded, and defeated legends are kept in your personal area. You will need to discard any 1 ally for each undefeated monster and legend. The ally you choose does not need to be ready or even deployed. It can actually come right from your hand. So there's going to be instances where you are fighting a monster or a legend and you just don't have the resources to defeat it. And in that case, it becomes an undefeated monster or legend. So you're going to have to get rid of an ally if that happens. Players will start their turn with a minimum of 3 actions, and the actions you can take and their costs are going to be as follows. Once again, I wanted to explain the actions before we get into the game because it's just going to kind of help to understand a little bit, and the actions are really the biggest part of this game. So For one action, remember we start with 3, there's going to be ways to get more, but I'll talk about that in a minute. For one action, you can discard 1 moon token to ready all exhausted allies. Now, as we are going to be gaining fame, we are going to be collecting these moon tokens. These moon tokens are really good to have, basically, because they're going to allow you to do other things. For one action, you can draw a monster or legend card to combat. For 1 to 3 actions, you can recruit an ally or item based on its market cost. So we already talked about that. So we have examples of everything. 1 action, you could get this item, use 2 actions for the coward and 3 actions to get the berserker. For 0 to 3 actions, you can use a trait on a deployed ally, so you'll have to look and see if they cost anything. So you'll see here, that costs 1, this costs nothing, etc. For 0 actions, you can deploy allies or use and discard items from your hand. And for 0 actions, you can attack a monster or legend with a basic attack on an ally. But you could do a little basic attack and hit them for your basic attack number. You can also use bonus actions, which are gained during the dawn phase. So each empty moon space between you and the leading player, so let's just say, let's do an example. So if I'm pink, there's 1 empty moon space because orange has already picked it up. So that is going to give me a bonus action. If this were the situation, it would give me 2 bonus actions because there's 2 empty moon spaces in between us, all right? Just note, you can only have a maximum of 6 actions total on a single turn. So you use 3 regular and you can have up to 3 bonus actions. To keep track of your actions, you can draw action tokens, which they provide in the game right here, which are these orange ones, to be like, okay, well, I use this 1 action. This is perfect for people that have Jamie brain who can't keep track of things that they have done. So you can have action tokens to help you keep track of what you've been doing. Let's now talk about the turn phases, starting with the dawn phase. In the dawn phase, you'll start by refreshing all of these following spaces: monsters, allies, items, and contracts. You must draw all monster cards showing this symbol. Okay, so this eye symbol right here, you must draw those when they come up. Now, when you draw a monster or legend, you will place it in front of you. Any instant actions on that card will trigger and must be completed fully before continuing with your turn. So you'll see here, now both of these would have had to have come up, because just remember, you fill all of these things at the beginning of your turn. So when I set it up for the purposes of the examples, I had the board completely full, all right? So these would have come in front of me because they have that eye symbol. Both of these actually have instant actions that happen, so we would need to trigger those right away. This one, and I will mention, of course, it does come with a handy dandy reference card. It has all of the icons and it has all of the phases there. So you can see here, instant action, the X card is discard any one of your cards. Next, we move into the day phase. Now, during the day phase, you will take your actions from the ones I listed earlier. And as I already mentioned, you will have 3 actions plus any bonus actions based on the fame track. You can do any combination of those actions so long as you have the actions to spend. So if you wanted to do the same action 3 times, you could do that, so long as, once again, you have the actions to spend, and just remember, we can keep track of that using these action tokens, which is great. Then finally, we have the dusk phase. Now, during this phase, you will gain fame for all of your completed contracts. If you passed any moon tokens this turn, collect the nearest one, and when a moon token is taken, all other players will get to ready all of their allies. So, if this player had passed this, they're going to collect the moon token, and then I would get to ready all of my allies. If you end on a legend space, which are here, they're all of these skull looking things, but if you end on a legend space, you will draw the top legend card and combat it during the day phase of your next turn. So let's just say they actually landed here, took their moon token, we readied our allies. They have to take the legend. Now remember, if there's any instant things, they're going to have to happen right away, but they're just going to place it in front of them, and then it gives them a little bit of a heads up about what they're going to have to overcome in that next day phase. If you want a more advanced game, you can actually use the moon deck, which I have set up here. This is for when you've played the game a few times and you're like, I'm good now, I can beef it up a little. So if you do want to use the moon deck, you will reveal a card from it anytime a moon token is taken. These cards will adjust gameplay and they provide like unique events. So as an example, this one is the give and take. Tag, you're it. I need a break. There's a lot of fun flavor text on these. I highly recommend you read them all. If you recruit an ally from the market, you must replace it with an ally from your hand. So that is actually going to be active until it gets replaced. So it just kind of spices it up and changes things up a little. The game will end when someone lands on or passes the champion token, which is right down here. When the champion token is collected, all other players will have one more turn to collect as much fame as possible, and then the player with the highest total fame wins. Those are the basic rules of the game, kind of like I said in a nutshell. But essentially, you are constructing your deck to get a great hand of allies and items in order to be able to overcome the monsters and the legends, because that is how you are going to get your fame. So before we get into who is this game for, you know I love showing off a little bit of cards and art and stuff like that, but we have so many different monsters. Like if you look at the monster deck, we have your standard fantasy monsters. We have the Drake, we have the Screamer. That looks like Flavor Flav. We have the Slime and the Kobold, the Forsaken, Lady of Bones. So there's so many different ones. Really key in order to get your fame up. And same with the legends. Of course, these are going to be really scary. So we have Behemoth and the Ogre, Vampire, Thundermaw, Werewolf. I love me a werewolf. All right, and not to mention, we have a massive stack of ally cards, and the allies are all super cool as well. Now, it's going to be really important for you to kind of build out your hand so that your allies synergize with each other a little bit, but there are going to be things that come up, obviously, where you're going to have to lose allies. So you might gain one and then you might have to lose them. And don't forget about items, because items can also be super helpful, and there are so many. I actually didn't show one, but here's one, the Elven Cloak, which we love. This is a reaction. When another player tries to steal, discard, or exhaust any of your allies, this card can stop them. So we've got some actions. This one allows you to look at the top card of the deck. We have so many different items that are going to be very helpful. And then of course the other way to get some fame is going to be through those contracts. So you just need to also make sure you're paying attention to that. Now your question might be, who is this game for? Well, first of all, this game is stunning. So if you like pretty games, this could be one for you. It's for people who enjoy hand management, deck construction, and ensuring you have the right lineup of allies to overcome the monsters and legends. This is going to be so important. I also think it's great for people who want to play a game together. They enjoy that combat and fighting style of game, but just not against each other, right? So there's going to be ways in the game that there is interaction, of course, because you're going to be able to like this card is protecting you, as an example, from stealing or exhausting. So you're going to be able to mess with each other a little bit, but your main goal, of course, is going to be to fight the monsters and the legends, because you are trying to get fame. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, you're messing with each other a little bit, but the fighting aspect of it is not against each other. So there are some people who don't enjoy that kind of like head-to-head combat. So this could be a really good game for people who don't like that, but they still want to kind of get a little spicy with it. It's more so like a race to score fame quicker, right? You want to be the better hero. You want to impress the town more than the others. It also has a really interesting action balance, because you get 3 actions, but you could have more if you're a bit behind on the fame track. But you don't want to get too far behind on the fame track, because what if you then can't catch up? So that is also adding in a balance. So if you're like, oh, sweet, I'm like way up here, but now I have given this player an additional 3 actions that they can use on their turn. But if I'm this player, I'm also looking at this player being like, oh, they have all those moon tokens and all of these things, and I'm so far behind, so I'm gonna have to go after something really big and hope that I get a legend that's gonna give me a lot of fame points. So, and of course, if you love a fantasy theme, this is very fantasy for sure. But my friends, that is Fame and Fable. And if this sounds like a game that you might be interested in, like I mentioned earlier, all of the links and everything that you need to know are going to be in the description for you below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer anything that I can. Now, if you're interested in buying board games, remember this one, we're going to go to Kickstarter. But board games that are currently out, you should first start by checking your friendly local gaming store. And for us, that's the Boardroom Game Cafe. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. I hope to see you again soon. And now I say goodbye, farewell, goodbye. Boop. I think he's the best hero because he's the cutest one. There, I said it. I said it.